Welcome to Elevate. I'm Rachel, and this is Nikki.
Hi, Rachel.
We're here to bring you the best insights from local wellness experts, helping you elevate your health, one simple step at a time.
Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter for curated wellness tips. You can watch this episode on YouTube or Spotify, or listen on Apple Podcast at Elevate Wellness.
On this episode of Elevate,
AI is going to dramatically change the work landscape, and there was a misconception a while back that AI was going to take all the blue collar jobs, but really AI is coming for a lot of the white collar jobs. So we're going to see a lot of kids that were in college for computer programming, so to speak, are finding there's no jobs available. AI technology can do it better, faster, and they're getting out of schools with these computer programming degrees and no one to hire them because they were on a track that's going to be consumed by AI, and AI is going to have an impact on a lot of areas. So I think rather than avoid that, I think we need to address those things right on. And then I think that is going to have a big impact on pushing some students, like you said, Nicole, into, carpentry, to roofing, to HVAC, to plumbing. And those jobs are going to be very high paying jobs because the demand is there, and demand dictates, what you get paid.
This week on Elevate, we are joined by Christopher Parsons, founder of College Planning Center in Charleston and Surfside Beach. In this conversation, we take a wellness-centered look at the college admissions process, exploring the emotional and mental health challenges that come with it for both students and parents. Christopher shares how stress, comparison, and social media can take a toll on families during this season, and why it's so important to focus on self-care, balance, and resilience along the journey. He offers practical advice for helping students build confidence, manage pressure, and find purpose, whether that means college, trade school, or another meaningful path. With a rich background in education, Christopher now uses his experience to guide families through this pivotal time with empathy and intention. His approach blends strategy with compassion, helping nearly 1,000 students nationwide pursue their college goals without losing sight of their mental and emotional well-being.
Christopher, welcome to Elevate. We are so excited to have you on today.
Glad to be here.
Now, this is going to be a great conversation, one we haven't had before, focusing on our young adults. And so we're excited for what you have to share with our audience today, Christopher.
I'm excited to be able to get the word out.
Yeah.
Christopher, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started with college planning centers? Because this is going to be a pretty interesting conversation for our Elevate listeners. We're all about elevating people's health, wellness, journey, and stress, emotional stress is a huge part of that. If we can limit stress in any area of our life, we're just going to be healthier for it. And we're going to talk today about limiting the anxiety in college admissions and what students face even on a regular basis in high school as well. Why don't you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about how you got started with the college planning centers?
Yeah, I was a college English teacher. I taught at USC when I was doing my PhD work, and I was also taught at the Citadel for a few years, where my alma mater. I taught there for 3 years as well. And then I went into the high school system, and the English teachers are the ones that most students tend to come to when they need help on their college essay, recommendation letters, and things like that. And so what I was witnessing as I was doing that is that a lot of stressed kids, a lot of kids applying to schools that I could recognize based on knowing those students were not great schools for the kids and not the right fit, and a lot of upset kids at the end of the process. And that was really what kind of was the impetus for me starting. It was realizing that they needed more help than they were getting. And that was about 13 years ago. And I realized that, I can do this. So I started the College Planning Center. I was doing that on the side while I was teaching English full time in Horry County. And within a year, I realized that there was so much demand for it that I just couldn't do both. And so I pulled back from teaching, and I'm still teaching, but just in a different way with the College Planning Center, where we're working with kids individually rather than in the school system.
It is a stressful time to work with your child, trying to get them to that next level. There are so many pressures. Walk us through how you came up with a formula that has led to great success among those who have come to you for help. I mean, there is a means to the madness, right?
I wish I could say I got it right the first time. It really, I started off and I didn't have test prep as part of our offerings. And then that obviously was a big part of the college planning process. And I realized we needed to add that in. And then I had a big storefront office in Charleston and one here. And then I realized that wasn't necessary, that we could meet in smaller environments, and that worked better. But what I just noticed is that kids need one-on-one individual help. And really, if we can meet that need and meet the need for the parents as well, then we are solving a big problem, which is the unknown, the stressors attached to not knowing if you're doing things the right way. And realizing that, unfortunately, our school system as it's set up now is just not able to do what needs to be done for a lot of these families. And there's still a disconnect and they think they are able to do that. And so when I realized that they really weren't, that's kind of when I made the decision to jump out of public education and to work one-on-one with these kids. And so it's really that one-on-one coaching that it makes the biggest difference for them. So they feel like they have the support when they need the support. And that sometimes is 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night on the night applications are due. So it can be, we don't take all the stress out, but we focus it in a positive direction where they feel like things are getting done right.
Can you give a few more details as to exactly what that process looks like, the forms that the kids are filling out, the part that the parents play? I mean, it is a lot, and it's hard to really understand a lot of what the colleges are asking from the children.
Absolutely. Our biggest emphasis is helping the students get to answer the why question. Why am I looking at these schools? What am I looking for from a major? Where do I want to go to school? We decided our formula answers those questions early in the process so that we can target schools that fit their needs rather than waiting until the end of high school to randomly decide where they're going to apply to college based on, what we've discovered are a lot of bad reasons that kids are picking schools. Like, my boyfriend or girlfriend were going there. My friends are there. I like the football team. All bad reasons for choosing a college. Even if you like the school, it might not be the best school for you to attend. I am a huge Clemson fan, in full disclosure, and I went to the Citadel because I knew I needed it. I love the Tigers, but I attended the Citadel because I knew I needed a smaller environment and I needed discipline that I might not have if it wasn't kind of forced on me at times. So we show those things early on, and then we design a plan based on the students' personality testing, career counseling, looking at majors, looking at colleges, and then we design a plan that's going to help them have the best chance to get into those schools based on what we know those schools are looking for from a GPA standpoint, test score standpoint, activities, extracurricular activities, and that includes internships, job shadowing. I know it seems like it's kind of crazy what the schools are looking for, but it is pretty intense now, especially some of the selective schools, how much they need to do to separate themselves from everybody else.
A lot of competition to get in these schools, and everything counts when you are putting it on that application. Like you're talking about the extracurricular activities. So it is a lot. It's a lot that's needed to get in these schools.
Yeah, it's unfortunately, the common application and that's the common application is an application that allows kids to apply to multiple schools with one application. That has been a blessing and a curse. The blessing is that it makes it easier. When I filled out my applications, it was by hand, and I might get one or two, and I wasn't doing any more applications because that was a lot of work. I've had kids come in and want to apply to 30 schools because of the indecision is paralysis by analysis, and they can't decide. And it also means that, Clemson has near 70,000 applications or Carolina does too, because they have so many kids that it can apply to a lot of schools, which means the numbers are going to go down as far as admissions rates. And that creates a very stressful, time for students when you can't even count on your in-state schools, which are your, the ones that you think would be ones you could get into easily. It's not that way anymore.
It seems to very often to have a student start at a college or university, and then within the first year or two, we see them transfer out either to a smaller college close to home, or maybe they try a different university in a different state. And I suppose that's all part of the process of figuring out up front which college and university is right for you. So what is the process for helping the students decide, this is a place for me, outside of maybe them offering the degree that they think, they're interested in?
Well, a lot of that ties into really, I won't say forcing, but really encouraging students to do a lot of introspective looks at what they really want, what makes them happy, what kind of environment makes them happy, what part of the country they want to be in. There's a lot of mitigating factors that the students have to think about that left to their own devices, they might spend more time researching the cell phone they're going to get rather than the college they're going to go to. And so we want to show them that this is equally important. We look at factors like retention rate at colleges. If you see colleges that have a very low freshman retention rate, that's a red flag for us that says, a lot of kids that are going there aren't staying there. Why is that the factor? And so we look into that and say, okay, these are the reasons why kids are leaving. Would that impact you? These are the reasons why this school has a really high retention rate and it's a very good graduation rate. That might be something that ends up being the censure for a kid to decide on that school over another one that might have a more dubious record when it comes to retention rate.
That's incredible that you go into that much depth with the colleges, with the students, helping them understand, because let's face it, did any of us really know at 18 what we wanted to do in life? I mean, that's a lot of pressure. So to understand the dynamics of really, as you mentioned, the competition just within the in-state schools now is insane. Understanding that maybe you'll do better in a smaller school, just go and watch the football games on the weekend so you can have some of that enjoyment and college life experiences as well. And maybe this college isn't a right fit for you because it doesn't have a high retention rate. Honestly, that's something that I wish I would have known for my children, because all of those things matter. And the combining of the college admissions process, going to multiple colleges, does sound beautiful. So I guess you have to navigate the wins on that and then wait when maybe it doesn't work well, obviously. But there's also a cost. These admissions, when you're filling out all of these admission forms, there's a cost, and not every parent can afford that.
It is. It's expensive. I'd say the application fees range from $50 to even close to $100 at a school.
Yeah.
And so if you were applying to 10 schools at $100, I'm not great with math, but that's a lot of money.
Yes. And some kids don't have that.
And there are schools that will give waiver fees or waiver codes for you to apply without paying. High schools will have what they call college admissions night or whatever, where schools will come in and they can apply that day without paying a fee. But those are on the time that the schools or the colleges want to do. And a lot of kids want to apply earlier than that. Clemson, Carolina, how early you apply sometimes can affect your housing options. So they don't want to wait until the college admissions night at their school because they want to have better options for housing. So, nothing is all good or all bad. It definitely, but the application fees can be extreme. And then that's just one of the fees. Getting into the college is one thing, but paying for the college is a whole nother thing that will keep parents and keep me up at night. I have a son graduating in December from the nursing program at Clemson, and it's been a fantastic experience. But wow, it's just every time you think you paid every fee that is out there, you're going to get another fee that you have to cover, and it blows parents away. They think that a full scholarship, even a Palmetto scholarship, which is our highest scholarship, well, that will cover everything, but that still leaves about $16,000 in room and board, which is not covered by the scholarships. Yeah, it's very expensive for parents to consider that, especially when they have more than one kid to think about.
Yeah, I can imagine it's very stressful for the parents as well. So you have the students that can have built up anxiety and stress over getting into the college that they would like to get into and the admissions process. And then you also have the parents that have an equal amount of stress with the process as well as the cost of it as well.
I would say dealing with that dynamic or that dual stressors is the hardest thing that we do, because what parents expect and what kids want isn't always the same thing. A lot of times the biggest stressor in the whole situation is the parent, not the kid or the school or whatnot. It's the expectations that parents have on where they want their kids to go or what they want their kids to do. And that might not match up with what the kids envision for themselves. And so we have to be able to very, very delicately manage parent expectations and maybe talk them off the ledge at times when they think that the world is ending if their kid doesn't get into a school, and realize that things happen for a reason, that no is usually a final no. There's a way to get there if they want to, but to understand that maybe sometimes a no means that you're getting pushed in a direction that was really the right way to go to begin with.
What are some of the ways that you help reduce that stress with parents?
Really just talking to them. One of the things that drives parents crazy in the current school system is it might take them a week or 2 weeks to even talk to a guidance counselor, much less get in with one. And so they want an answer right now. We make ourselves available, on every day. We get back to them right away, and they just want to be able to talk to somebody and get answers about the situation, whether if it's a wait list, if it's a deferment, if it's an acceptance, all those things they want to be able to talk about it immediately. And sometimes they just want to be able to vent, for lack of a better term. They want to be able to vent that their kid didn't get into their alma mater, and they've been spending money or sending money to that school for years. And when they realize that it doesn't matter, sometimes it doesn't matter how long they've been a member of IPTE, their child still didn't get into Clemson. That is something that is a very big stressor for the parents to deal with.
Yeah, that's relatable. I know for both of my children, their only choice, the only place they wanted to go was Clemson, the end. And both of my children actually started through the Bridge program. And it was wonderful because, number one, it was an easier way for them to transition into college. In my opinion, for them, it sort of took some of the stress away because they couldn't rush. They couldn't do some of the things that they maybe would have felt pressure to do so. And the cost was way less. But at the end of the day, they're both Clemson University graduates. So I think the thing that I hear you doing for the parents and the students is saying, let's see how we can work together. Let's talk about it. And at the end of the day, you may have to veer a little bit on your path, but in the end, you'll have the final result that really is true to what you need.
Well, Nicole, the thing is, so much in life is about perspective. And when you're in the middle of the fight, sometimes you don't have that perspective. You can't step back and see, my life isn't over, that I didn't get into this school, or, and you use the Bridge program. I think the Bridge program is a fantastic program. There's a lot of kids that still see that as a rejection from Clemson.
I know. And it's ridiculous. We have to change that mindset.
No, and we do our best. And we try our best to do that because I think Clemson Bridge is great. There's another acceptance level called Summertown Bound, which they start in the summer before, and they do a couple classes that summer before they're supposed to start. So there's 3 levels of acceptance. The Bridge program is great, and I think sometimes it's just about educating them about those things. And then and a lot of them go to that and they realize, wow, that was the best thing that happened to me. I needed that time to acclimate. I needed that time to get ready, and I wasn't ready to jump right into the deep end. And so sometimes it goes against what they want at the time, but it ends up being the biggest thing, a blessing for them in the long run that they do that way. So go ahead.
Sorry. Can you explain what the Bridge program is? My son is in 5th grade, so I am not even quite there yet. So when you mentioned the Bridge program, for the listeners out there that are going, what is that as well? Can you explain what that is?
No, and for the record, many schools do this type of program. So it's just not Clemson. There are many universities that have various programs like the Bridge program. Right, Christopher?
Right. Carolina has a Bridge program. College Charleston does. The Bridge program is just that. It's a bridge to acceptance. You would start at the technical school in the area. For Clemson, it's Tri-County Tech. And for College Charleston, it'd be Trident. For Carolina, it's Midlands. And so basically what they're doing is you come in and you go for a year and you demonstrate that you can handle the classes and then you bridge in to acceptance. So you don't have to apply again. You automatically, if you keep it, a certain GPA will go into that school. Your degree will come from that college. It doesn't say he was a Bridge graduate. You're a Clemson graduate, you're a Carolina graduate. It's a great way to save money. The only thing, and this is something that does get in the way at times, is the only thing you can't do is you can't rush a sorority or fraternity while you're in that first year. So you have to put that off for a year, but you can do it as soon as you start the next year. You can do those things. That's the way the Bridge program works. And then you would bridge into that college from that tech school.
But the atmosphere is all the same. It's going to the games. It's doing all the things. You're just attending classes at a different campus. But when you're all mingling downtown, wherever you are I'll just say at the bars or the shops or the Clemson athletic events, no one knows where you're going to class. You're all a part of the Clemson community. Same thing for all of these other colleges who offer these options for kids. So that creates some stress, but in some ways it alleviates the anxiety once they get there and they become acclimated. So really, Christopher, you're doing a lot of teaching of children/students and parents on finding the right avenue, and don't be down on yourself because you have to take a different path. And I can tell you honestly, financially, the bridge program was
it's the
so
bomb.
helpful for me.
It's the bomb. It's the
Yes.
bomb, isn't it? It was great.
Yes, it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
It was very helpful.
To show my age and use lingo from like 10 years ago. Yeah, it was a bomb. But yeah. It's, a lot of, I won't say a lot of what we do, but we have to kind of break these stigmatisms that exist about a lot of these things. And the truth is we work with students who we can tell right away college isn't really the right fit for them. And so we work towards trade schools for those kids because there's still a stigmatism about that exists, and feeling like you have to go right into college or that college is the only answer. And so bridge is one of those stigmatisms. We try our best to break that stigmatism. And like I said, sometimes the stigmatism is worse with the parents about those programs than it is with the kids. And the kids are like, I love it, I'm happy with that. And the parents are like, I can't believe my kid didn't get into Clemson or Carolina or whatever. And there's some ego involved there that we have to kind of, I wish I could say eliminate. We can't eliminate ego. Ego's part of who we are, but I think we do a disservice to our children when we don't celebrate all the victories, even when they aren't the victories we thought that we wanted for them. That sometimes you think that you had a door shut for you, but really it's just opening up another window that you needed to go through anyway. And that perspective is hard at the time, but ones that they come back and go, wow, the bridge program was exactly where I needed to be. Thanks. And we hear that all the time.
I think it sets a healthy expectation for, students 18, 17, even 16 years old, going into college. Like, life is not a checkbox, and it very rarely turns out the way that you think it's going to. You can set your sights on a goal and move towards that goal, but a lot of times that's not the way that things turn out. And I think it's also just a life principle, and have a healthy expectation on really what you're able to do in the capacity that you're able to enjoy what you're doing as well. You had mentioned prioritizing self-care for the student. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you mean by self-care for our students?
Well, all you have to do is look at their schedules and you realize, wow, their day is micromanaged down to like to the minute. I've got this club on this day and dance on this day for 3 hours. And then when you look at all that, you go, when do you have time to contemplate the week? When do you have time to just sit back and think about things a little bit and just take it all in? And so we really advocate for students, whether it's the Calm app, whether it's, meditation or something, just take some time for yourself and realize that it's okay to have that, that we call self-help time, but I call it, mental health time to reflect on the week and what you've accomplished and to celebrate, like I said, those small victories. My son, and I'll brag on my son here a little bit, and he was the top graduate at his school at St. James, and his speech was exactly about what I'm saying, is that he said that he spent so much time preparing for the next test, getting ready for the next assignment. Everything was like, he could never be happy in the moment. It was always like, well, now I have to do that. Now I have to do this. And then you turn around at graduation and realize that you missed out on a lot of the things in high school that make high school fun. And he achieved a lot of goals, but in the process, he made a lot of sacrifices. And those may be things that you're willing to sacrifice, but there needs to be some accountability on the student's part to realize that, there are trade-offs to everything, and realize that sometimes it's okay to say no and not try to do everything. And to realize that might be what you need at the time, is to have that, like a break or pause in the moment so you can recharge your battery. And that's important for students. And that's not something that I think that a lot of people are pushing on them, because they are trying to get into selective schools and they need this test score and they need this GPA. And wow, you can only push so hard for so long before you hit the wall, and you're going to hit a wall eventually. And we recognize that, and we try to prepare for that so that kids can have the tools they need to deal with it, and also maybe avoid it by doing those things and letting off the pressure valve here and there.
That's so very true. And that goes along with, learning how to box breathe, learning how to lessen that anxiety, because our young people really do struggle with anxiety more than I've ever seen. And certainly as adults, we see it more. So talk about the modalities that you suggest for the students and the parents when they're going through these times.
And this is going to sound like it goes against what we're talking about here, but we try to encourage parents to let their kids fail and for kids to deal with failure now so they can be prepared to handle it. Because one of the issues we run into is the micromanaging and I would say the helicopter parents that try to clear every obstacle away for their kids. And in the process, they're creating students who are unable to deal with it, with any type of adversity. And I think I can say without any hesitation that adversity is not going away when you get out of high school. I mean, that's just the start of adversity. And you're going to deal with adversity your whole life. And I mean, there are some schools that they have counseling and they have classes on how to deal with failure because kids have never dealt with failure before because they've always had somebody, talking to the teacher for them or getting a redo on that paper or do whatever they need so they don't have to sit in that moment and realize that they're not perfect. And perfection is unattainable. Wow. But there are kids that we work with that are thinking that they're still chasing that elusive perfection, and failing is an important part of succeeding. I had a expression on my wall when I was teaching that said, "Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you deal with it." Yeah. But we're not teaching that 90% very well for kids how to deal with it, and in the process, we're creating kids that when they have their first failure or adversity, they're going to they're going to crash. And so that is part of what we're trying to do is show them that it doesn't kill them. It doesn't kill them. They can overcome it and let parents or convince parents to let the kids work through it on their own. And those are things that are hard to do in the moment, but very good lessons that we teach our families and our students we work with. And in addition to that, what that's created too is that they're not willing to try hard things or things they might not be good at because that would mean they might fail. And so they don't push themselves out of their comfort zone or their box. They stay right in there where they're comfortable. And because of that, they might miss out on things they could have tried or experimented with in high school that might end up being the pathway towards what they want to do for their whole life. And because they're afraid to not be good at it.
Mm. There's so much that I can just sit and talk with you about in reference to what you just shared. It goes back to just having a healthy expectation to impart on your child as well, that failure is okay. And it's not okay. It's a healthy thing to experience because we're not going to be able to perfect everything and achieve everything. And if you fail at something, it's evidence that you were putting your effort forward, right? It's kind of the saying of fail forward, fall forward. But also with the admissions process of accepting that, hey, if I didn't get into the school I wanted to be able to pivot without completely closing down and shutting down, as well as you had mentioned, admissions looks at a balanced individual, which is, I would think, someone that's able to hand the external stress as well, be able to rise up after having a failure or has a healthy social dynamic. They're not only focused on the next step, on the next thing, passing the next test, and creating a checkbox where it's, 4.0 or nothing. Because the reality of it is we have to be well-rounded humans to be successful in any capacity. And success really does look different for everybody, right?
Absolutely. I have a book that actually is launching on the 15th of this month called Entering the Arena. And that is the major premise of the book is, it's comparing college admissions, it's a little bit of a, over the top comparison, but one that I think is legitimate to the Hunger Games. And when there's a scene in the Hunger Games when they come up and they're all running for their weapons or whatever, and everybody runs for the same stuff. And that's how I start my book, talking about how everybody's trying to be like everybody else. And so nobody's being authentic. And colleges really want authenticity. And in the process of trying to be exactly like other students and have, really bloated GPAs and test score, we really aren't taking the time to find out really what makes us unique. And it might be service, maybe service, community service, and finding some avenue there to really take the lead and show some special part of you. That might be what really makes you special. But in trying to be like everybody else, we all end up being exactly the same. And that makes it harder on colleges, but it also makes it hard on the students to realize who they are. And they might go through 10, 15 years before they realize, wow, I've been trying to be something that I'm not. And that's something that we try to encourage students to think about what really matters to them, what is really important. And if playing music is important to you, and writing your and learning to play guitar and recording your own music, maybe that's something that there really is something you're passionate about. Why not do that? Why? I mean, it might not be what you do for a living, but it might be what you do to survive all the things you're doing for a living. Music is something that saved my oldest child, who that was his therapy, was music. And he dealt with COVID and the stressors by going into that world. And had he not found that for himself, I don't know that he would have survived high school, but it would have been much less enjoyable. But we want kids to find those things that really move them. And I think too often they look for around them what everybody else is doing and go, I've got to be like that. And I think that is, to me, and I mentioned this to you, Rachel, social media has been a big factor in all this. We see what everybody else is doing. Their life looks perfect. They're doing that. They got into that school. I've got to do exactly what, student X or student Y is doing. And that, chasing that, those likes and everything else I think is toxic, but it's very difficult for students to be happy in their own skin sometimes when it comes to that.
I think we're facing a real dilemma with the social media impact that it's having on our young people and on adults, but the pressure that these young people are under because they feel like they need to be like something that's really not what it's being portrayed anyway is very dangerous. And it really is something that sucks them in. And I don't know what the answer is though, Christopher. I think it's a little bit disheartening thinking about where we are in this world with social media and its impact, because it can bring so much good, but we do see the negativity that it creates for our young people, especially. What are your thoughts on that, and any tips of what we can do, how we can help this younger generation and help us, because we're just as guilty of it ourselves sometimes.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not going to throw any rocks in my glass house that I live in here.
Me either.
It's tough. We recognize it, but we try to get our kids to lean into social media in a positive way. In other words, start a LinkedIn account, start a positive social media account where you're posting pictures of the things that you're doing that are good things, and cool. Start developing, a resume even in that. And even on social media, recognizing that that has a life that extends beyond, anything that's out there is going to stay out there. And so trying to teach kids the toxicity of that, and how, something that you might not think of as a big deal could be what keeps you from getting the job. I mean, and for some colleges, we've seen it happen every year. Acceptance is not locked in. They can retract their acceptance decision if there is something that comes out on social media that shows kids in a light that the college is not happy with. And so we see that happen all the time, and teaching students to use that for the social media for the things that it can be used for that are good. And that, I'm not under any illusion that that's going to fix everything, but we have to start somewhere, because it's not going away. We're not going to say, okay, you can't use social media anymore. And we have seen students or families that try that route. But, no digital footprint at all is also a red flag to colleges. If they see no digital footprint, now they're wondering why has that been scrubbed? Nothing out there, and then that scares them too. I think finding a way to use it, and because social media can be very good. I can keep up with my friends and family and what they're doing around the world in ways I never could before. But if I sit there and scroll on there all day long and look at things from the standpoint of how much better they're doing than I am, then it can be bad. So, I mean, I think talking to them about it, we talk to our kids about the way they can use social media in a positive way, and then hoping that, that message gets through. But I don't know. It's I wish I could say that I feel like we've turned that corner, but I feel like we haven't really got to the point yet where it's really going to become like I won't say an issue. It already is an issue, but where we're going to hit that wall, so to speak, for kids. I don't know where that point is going to be.
It's definitely going to be an ongoing issue for a long, long time. And it will take work on our part to change the trajectory of the younger generation and how they use it. A couple of things that I picked up on. I have known of individuals who have had issues from their social media that were not allowed to get in the sorority, fraternity, realm. So it does make a difference what you're putting out there, because if someone grabs it and they keep it, it can come back to haunt you. And that's upsetting. So it is a good reminder of what we're all putting out there. Number two, you talked about changing the stigma surrounding trade schools. I am a firm believer, like, we should be allowing children to find their passion in what they want to do. And a 4-year degree is not the answer for every student. There are tremendously successful people, individuals in HVAC, in roofing, things like that, that they can go to these trade schools for their education. Talk about that, because we really do need to work hard to change that.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned, one of the elephants in the room, which is AI. AI is going to dramatically change the work landscape. And there was a misconception a while back that AI was going to take all the blue collar jobs, but really AI is coming for the white collar, a lot of the white collar jobs. So we're going to see a lot of kids that were in college for computer programming, so to speak, are finding there's no jobs available. AI technology can do it better, faster, and they're getting out of schools with these computer programming degrees and no one to hire them because, they were on a track that's going to be consumed by AI. And that's AI is going to have an impact on a lot of areas. So I think rather than avoid that, I think we need to address those things right on. And then I think that is going to have a big impact on pushing some students, like you said, Nicole, into, carpentry, to roofing, to HVAC, to plumbing. And those jobs are going to be very high paying jobs because the demand is there, and demand dictates, what you get paid. So that overcoming that stigmatism, I think, is going to be really easy when you start seeing your plumbers making, 6 figures plus, and other people getting out with other degrees that can't get a job. I think that it'll be pretty fast in turning that around, but it's going to be something that might be a little painful in the short term. And so that's why we want students to really think about. One of the things we do when we do career counseling is we look at these numbers that reflect the jobs that will be available in your field when you graduate, not just right now. And if you're looking at a field that's retracting, that has no jobs on the horizon in that field, maybe you need to pick a new field. I know that sounds kind of harsh, but maybe that job isn't going to be the one that's going to be the right one for you because there just aren't going to be jobs available in that field in the future. I think thinking about that now and embracing AI from the standpoint of how it will help you or how it can assist you in pursuing what you're doing, we're going to have to deal with that and a lot over the next 5 to 10 years in ways that will help students realize that. And also, I think that, we got rid of all the vocational high schools in the past. There used to be a big thing when I was growing up. My mom taught at a vocational high school. And then that kind of was a bad word. Like vocational meant we were somehow discriminating against those students. And now we need to realize that we're really hurting them by not having those vocational programs available to them now, because they could get that training and that expertise without having to pay for college. That is really something we're doing a service for those kids, and by and our communities too, because they're going to be members of our community. They're going to be contributing in lots of ways, and that's going to make our community stronger too. So we've got to really think about that and address those, and that has to be from the bottom up, as far as from elementary school, high school, middle school. We need to be really pushing those as positive ways for kids to think about and make a decision what really is the right route for them to go.
Absolutely. Christopher, do you speak with high schools and schools in the area?
I'm only laughing because I would love to speak to high schools all the time. There's still, speaking of stigmatisms, there's still a stigmatism about my profession where they see us as sharks or preying on the insecurities or the fears of families and kids. And they still see that as something that they do for free. So having us come in some ways is they see that as something that's not good for the high schools. So I do a lot of speeches at churches, youth groups. I just did one a couple of weeks ago or about a month ago at LC3 in Merle's Inlet, but and I did some at Blaine as well. So we do them there. So I have to kind of work around a system that is kind of designed right now to freeze us out. So and the funny thing, and I'm going to vent a little bit here, but the funny thing is they'll let the colleges come in. And the colleges are the biggest sharks of all. The colleges colleges are businesses that are preying off of the very things that they think that they're keeping out by keeping us out. So they need to have us and to give them the tools they need to go up against these schools or to put themselves in a good situation with these schools that are, in many cases, encouraging them to apply to a college when they know they can't get in because they want to increase their or lower their acceptance rate. I see that all the time at these college fairs where colleges will be talking to students and, yeah, you should apply to our school when they know they're not getting in, but that is good for them. They get the application fee and they reduce their acceptance rate, and it helps make their college look better, but it doesn't do much to help the student. But that's what we're letting into our high schools because we think that they are benevolent institutions. They're all businesses as well. And so I think we need to give an even playing field where kids can see all the information and parents get all the information so they can make educated decisions. So that's my rant as to why we don't get into a lot of the high schools to talk to them because they keep us out.
Knowledge is power. So what you're trying to...
And I offer to do them for free. It's not about the cost. It's about just the perception that this comes back to ego a little bit too. The perception that the schools aren't doing this already for kids is what they don't want to let that open that Pandora's box, because once kids and parents realize that they need more than they're getting from the current guidance system, that is something that they don't want to open that box up and create that, I won't say chaos, but to create that idea that they need to do more. I mean, the average ratio of counselor to student is almost 350 to 1. 350 kids per counselor. They might see their counselor for 45 minutes over the course of 4 years. We work with kids for 40, 50 hours. So, I mean, we're spending lots and lots and lots of time with them in ways that, isn't practical for the system to do, but we could be a great resource and a great supplement for counselors to help them they're the ones that are going to look good when the kids get into the colleges and get the scholarships. The high schools look good. The counselors look good. So we could really work together, but we have had a hard time getting them to team up with us on those things.
Well, I'm always a jibber jabber, but I thought that you might want to say something. So I was trying to, on that note, I was pausing. But what Christopher was saying is so important, is that really at the end of the day, we should all be in this together to do whatever we can to help our young people, because I know, being there personally, years ago, it's hard. And I was one of those people doing all I could to try to help my kids as well. So I think what you're doing, Christopher, is phenomenal, and more students and parents could so benefit from the plans that you help the families make, empowering the students and helping them reduce that stress and anxiety, because it is definitely there during those days. And honestly, it does not end. As we know, once the kids get into college, it's the financial forms, it's the ongoing process year after year after year. And then parents figuring out how to pay for things that continues for quite some time. And your program can help us all with that.
We do. And sometimes, what we're trying to save is the parents from themselves sometimes too, because we see families make horrible financial decisions that impact their ability to retire one day before they're 90. Because, sometimes the worst thing that can happen is a kid gets into a school. I know that doesn't make sense when I say it, but applying to schools that aren't a good financial fit and letting your kids get emotionally attached to a school that you can't afford to pay for. We've seen families make horrible decisions about paying for those schools when they really can't afford to pay for them. Taking out a Parent Plus loan, a huge loan, getting a second mortgage on a house, cashing in, retirement stuff. I mean, you name it. We've seen it because they have this idea that their kid has to go to a certain school to be successful. And we really push the notion that it's not where you go, it's what you do when you get there that makes the difference. And you can be successful anywhere if you have the right mindset. And we want to protect families from really the crippling effects of long-term debt. I had a full scholarship to college, and I still was paying for loans from graduate school all the way till I was 45. And that $30,000 worth of loans ended up being $50,000 when it was all said and done. And it affected so many decisions. And that, I think, was a driving force as well. I didn't want other families to experience that crushing feeling of debt, which is and that's just one debt. That's not getting into everything else they're going to deal with, but it can affect jobs you get. It can affect getting a house or loan. It can affect so many things that they don't think about when they're 17 or 18 years old. And you have to, and the parents need to realize that, it might be okay for them to go to their second choice if that's a better financial decision rather than having to be that, that school that's the top of the top 20 U.S. News and World Report school that's going to change their life, but it might not. And if it ruins your possibilities for retiring before before you die, then that might be a bad decision for you too. And that's a hard decision to make, but one that parents need to think about.
Jesus, such a great point. You offer such a great resource. And like you said, even to supplement and support the guidance counselors in the school systems, it's good for the whole family, because the last thing you want to do is set your sights on a college that may or may not be the best fit for you, but then be stressed the entire time, the reapplication of things, come out with debt, puts a stress on the family as well. You've helped over 1,000 students reach their dreams with a little less stress. It's probably a hard question to answer, but is there a particular story or a few that you'd like to share of helping a student and their family?
Yeah, I can think of a few recently that, and a lot of some of the cases, the hardest cases are the ones you remember the most sometimes. And the ones that, we had a student who lost a parent, right in the middle of the process. She gave up on doing all those things, and we were able to help that. And then to I won't say rehabilitate his resume, but to tell a story to a school in a way that they could understand what happened that year, and not wash it away, because what really made that student, who he was at the time was going through, the fire. And that's one of the worst things you can go through, losing a parent. And he came out the other side stronger. It was still sad, but it was one where he ended up at a great school for him, and not the one he was thinking about going in, but one where everything was about dealing with the things that we could have never seen going into it, and dealing with it in a way that was healthy, and was one that helped him maybe keep his head above water and not drown in something that could have been life altering in a way that would have been really negative, we think. And so just having somebody he could talk to was what he needed at the time, that was not judging, that was not pushing, that was, I think that sometimes, I'm not a psychologist, but we deal with a lot of psychological issues and emotional issues, but we just listen. We provide them that platform, or that person they can talk to, that coach that they can really lean into. And for him, that's what he needed going through that. I had another student who was convinced that she wasn't worthy to get into any school, that she was a broken person. And we helped her with her essay, and her essay was one of the most memorable ones that I can recall. And her whole essay was about a mosaic, and she talked about being broken and how she spent her whole life, gluing the pieces back together, and how she was more perfect because of the imperfections, and that she was more beautiful because of the flaws. And that was an amazing essay, that she thought she had nothing to say, and really she had so much to say in her essay. And just getting that story out in a way that could resonate and really was therapeutic for her, but also the college could see somebody, that's who we want at our school. That's who we want, somebody who's going to come in, and the GPA might not be what we're looking for, the test score might not, but this kid has gone through it, and that's who we want at our school because of so many other reasons. Those are the ones I tend to remember. Not that every student doesn't have a great story. They do, but some just need more help than others. It's just a fact. And that's a fact in life. Some kids are going to be able to do it, and you just hold their hand a little bit, but they're fine. Some kids are sprinting ahead of us, and we're just trying to keep up with them. And then some kids, we're pulling along like a donkey, trying to drag them through the things they don't want to do. They're the ones that I call them my knuckleheads sometimes. They're the ones that I'm most proud of when I see them walk across the stage and realize that they probably wouldn't have been able to do it if we hadn't really been pushing them to do what they didn't want to do. They didn't want to do those things. We made them rewrite their essay 3 times, and they hated us. But at the end, they loved what came out of it.
Resilience, though. Resilience, to keep going. Yeah.
And I do want to say something else too. And I mentioned this to you, Rachel, but what we do on the business side is not cheap for some families to use. So that I have started a nonprofit called All In College Planning. And our goal with All In is to reach every student. And we work with kids, and they don't have to pay anything that work with us. And we've been really trying to make, the whole premise behind All In is that every kid deserves, good college counseling or professional counseling if they're going in the direction of not going to school, going to a trade school. And leveling the playing field for every student is something that I'm really, really have my heart and soul that I'm putting into. That has been The nonprofit side has been a huge challenge that I was not prepared for. It's really hard. I thought had this great idea. We're gonna help all these kids, and everybody's gonna line up to give us money to help work, and that is not the way that the world works, unfortunately. I really want to get the word out about all-in college planning because for $100, that covers a kid through a whole year of that program, and that 1 year could be the difference between not only saving that student, but also and I won't get into the, too deep in here, but, cyclical poverty in households, one student going to college can change the whole cycle of an entire family when it comes to, that a family that has a college graduate has a X% better chance of the next kid going to school. And all of a sudden you take a family that might be on a trajectory into poverty and raise them out of that by just helping them through this and realizing that there are a lot of the colleges that have the money to give kids that are first gen kids that are in poverty, that have money to give them, assistance to give them. And a lot of them think college isn't a possibility. And we want to help those students as well realize that they can. College is not an unattainable dream for them either.
What a wonderful impact that you are making in our community on every scale. I tell you what, Christopher, thank you so much for sharing with us the resource that you are providing for students and families. I think it's absolutely wonderful that you are making it available through All-In College Planning as a non-for-profit. We can't wait to just support you and get the word out, because I know that our listeners please don't write anything down while you're driving. Wait and then press pause, but they're going to want to connect with you. So can you please share with everybody how they can connect with you?
Yeah, on the nonprofit side, allincollegeplanning.org is where they can go to, and there's the ability to donate. You can also, if you're a family that wants to get help, there's a way to go in there and to send an inquiry or to sign up there as well. And, we really want local businesses to sponsor or to be, and I think that's something that the more educated the people are in our community, the better they're able to serve the community. So in the long run, it's a great win for the community too, to have these organizations buy into it. collegeplanningcenters.com is my for-profit company, which is also a great resource. We have a lot of different ways we can help kids, but at the end of the day, you just need to you need to think about the process and really plan out for what's going to work for your family and what works for you, and realize that there are resources no matter what your economic situation is to make the process easier and less stressful for you and your family. And that is something that we encourage families to look into, and realize that just because you have the money too doesn't mean you want to pay it all to college. And saving that money could be a big, you can give that money to your child to get his or her first house, or, prepare them for life after college, rather than tapping into all your 529 money for them. Yeah. You can pass that on to their children. 529 money can be passed down to your grandchildren. You don't have to spend all that money just because you have it. And so we want to save as much for our families as we can. That's what we're wanting people to do, is to realize that every student deserves to have that possibility of, a higher education if he or she wants it, or they need to have that coaching that will help them get to attain those goals. And sometimes they really need the help and the cheering, because we are cheerleaders for our kids, to help them through those hard times in school that are going to be really challenging. That's something that we try to do for all of our families.
It's a lot of work, smarter, not harder, and on some levels there, Christopher.
Yeah, and that is a great lesson in life in general. But kids, I've been beating my head against the wall and I can't get my test scores up. And then we see what they've been doing and wow, let's revisit this and do it completely differently. And then they get their scores up because they were working really hard, but not smart. And so, we don't want them to work any harder than they have to, but we want them to realize that sometimes it's how they're working and what they're doing that makes a difference, not that they're not working hard enough, because our kids are working pretty hard and do a lot of things these days.
They sure are. This has been great. And Rachel, I am guessing you have one final question as well.
Yes, my last question always is, what can we do today, Christopher, in your experience? What can students and families do today to elevate their health and wellness journey, but more importantly, with our conversation today, to decrease the stress in their journey towards their next steps in college planning, whatever that might look like?
I think I have a very simple answer to that. Have a discussion with your child. Talk to your child, and really sit down, no phones, no distractions, and find out really what's going on. What's really going on with school? What are you nervous about? What are you stressed about? How can we help make that process easier for you? And students need to be able to express their fears and concerns without worry of being judged or being, pigeonholed in some way. And so I think having that talk, because it's all about having a plan, and the plan is different for every kid. It's different for even multiple kids in the same families we work with are very different plans, even though they're brothers and sisters or whatever. So being willing to accept that, it's not going to be the same for your child as somebody else's child, things that are the stressors. And then maybe I would also say, finally, celebrate the small victories. You get a good score on a test. Let's go out. Let's go get some ice cream. Let's celebrate that victory. Because one thing that we've seen with the power school generation, I call them, is everybody's looking at all the missing test score or the missing homework grade or the bad. And so they feel like they're always being judged or constantly, watched. But celebrate the good stuff, celebrate the things that are positive, and then don't focus on every little thing they're doing wrong. Look at the things that they're doing right too. And students need to do the same thing. Be happy with the things they do well, learn from the things they don't, but don't dwell on them to the point of feeling like they in some way shape our perception of ourselves, because it's all about perception and getting through and realizing that, like that student I talked about before, sometimes it might be some broken pieces, but we're better for going through those struggles, I think. And we're going to be much better at handling the things in life that are going to be struggles when we learn how to do that and talk through those things and work through those things.
Well said.
Good stuff,
Thank
Christopher.
you.
Absolutely. Good stuff.
Thank you for being here today, Christopher.
Yeah, this has been great.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was great.
Hi, friends. Please leave us a 5-star review and let us know what you thought of today's episode. Share it with someone who needs a little inspiration and tell them why they should tune in to Elevate, your go-to resource for healthy living here in the Grand Strand.
Each week, we're cultivating conversations that inspire well-being, support the ebb and flow of coastal living, and help elevate our community's wellness journey.
Don't forget to join our newsletter, a culinary garden of resources, including our downloadable Wellness Made Simple with curated tips from our local wellness experts. You can click on the link in show notes to subscribe.
And of course, stay connected with us on YouTube at Elevate Health Grandstrand and on Instagram and Facebook. You'll find those links in the show notes. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. The information provided in the Elevate podcast and associated materials is for general informational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. No content should be considered a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment. Reliance on any information provided by Elevate, its host, guest, or contributors is solely at your own risk. We encourage you to consult with a healthcare professional before making any significant changes to your diet, exercise, or wellness routine. Ultimately, your health and well-being are unique to you, and it's important to make informed decisions based on your individual needs.